So this is part 3 of getting Google SketchUp models into Clip Studio. And if you were here for the other part, I've already got a model in there, and I am using a totally default pen. Just the tab key. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, maybe rotate a few degrees. And really, this is just what I guess what most comics pros would call penciling. But I'm just kind of sketching for details here. I'm not really too worried about a final product. But this is pretty much how I would be blocking in a lot of these things. Uh, Putting in additional details that weren't in the model. Maybe there was an antenna there or something. But really just taking the inspiration, basically Akira and a lot of other sci-fi films and designs, and trying to build something out, in 2D. Let's say sort of something of a handlebar emerging from this giant console thing. I'm going to block in a little bit of lighting. Kind of bring out a couple of forms here. This would be kind of, I guess what you would call an intake. Let's get some screws, whatever. Maybe a little additional detail on that. A couple more screws. Maybe the beginnings of a headlight there. That would be internal. So this is pretty much the process that I think most comics people are familiar with. That while you're using something in the background, it is something that you made. It's not a photo from the internet. It's a design of your own. You can get really far with this, with SketchUp as just another tool, in your image making. There's a really substantial marketplace for free models for SketchUp. It's really it's quite old. It's been around for a while. I don't know how much of it is updated or is still compatible with newer versions of SketchUp. Like I said, I use a kind of an older version of SketchUp. There really is no reason for me to kind of upgrade or update. I don't need, or I could use definitely some of those other tools. But one of the points of my using SketchUp is that it is, kind of limiting. One of those tools that kind of forces you to think a little more simply, I guess. So just doing some more kind of rough detailing. I always have those kind of neat triangle stickers all over the place. Again, like I said before, I don't want to be too completely slavish to what's under there, because part of the reason for doing this is really just to get like you're used to drawing perspective lines. Well, using a CAD program is just like drawing really sophisticated forms of those perspective lines. You're, instead of laying out grids, you're depending on the software to calculate those underlying grids and provide you with a rendered result. So there really isn't that much reason not to use CAD, and other than a lot of people think that a rendered CAD result would make things look, I guess, too mechanical. But for this stuff, that's the point of what I'm trying to do with a lot of these designs is to increase that concept or that perception of the really technological and mechanical nature of a particular society, the one I'm depicting in my book. So, Encoding Bushido started out, it also started out digital. And some of the first experiments I did with using SketchUp are in that preview book, which if you look on my homepage for this channel, you'll find the MailChimp sign up list accessible in the links section. If you sign up there, you get a free preview of that issue, and you can see some of the environments that I blocked out using SketchUp. There are a few interiors and at least a few exteriors. that I designed quite a bit of architecture for. I don't really like that tread pattern. I want to reverse the direction. I think that's a little more coming to that tread pattern. It looks like it's coming at you, not going away from you. And a lot of this will be kind of that other pattern in the center, kind of. And I've used quite a few of these really quick passes as final sort of background images in encoding Bushido. Quite a few environments, quite a few background vehicles, that ended up being designed in SketchUp ended up also being kind of very, very loosely rendered, in the final product. And for me, it gives you that impression that that there's a camera on scene. The looser something is rendered. Some people disagree with this, but it's something I see my favorite inkers do all the time. That backgrounds are inked really quite loosely, and it gives the sort of the impression of camera bokeh. That lens blur that occurs between foreground and or between your subject and the background. I love that kind of stuff in comics. That Al Williamson was one of the best at kind of giving you that indication of foreground versus background. He rendered really amazing, environments and characters and creatures, throughout his career. And of course, he used substantial amounts of photography, but a lot of times it was his photography. And that's one of the points I make about using something like SketchUp. If you're a 3D designer already, you have an advantage, at least in designing and building models that you can get into Clip Studio if you choose to use Clip Studio. But if you were to use this in another context, in another illustration, or another program. Let me put another detail here. Whatever tools you choose, I hope you take the time to actually integrate that into the look, that you've kind of chosen for your entire book. I definitely chose to use Google SketchUp just to have all of the mechanical detail from a particular perspective in an easy and repeatable manner available to Clip Studio, because by the finale of encoding Bushido, there are going to be dozens of robots and scenes that had to have a uniform look. So that was a great way to achieve that. But that's it for now. The next part of this is going to cover some other topics, which some people, consider a little on the mundane side. But, I want to get into the post-production angle of things, the way you handle your documents and such. But, until then, subscribe to the channel. It was, great seeing you guys here. There are some people who showed up to subscribe I haven't talked to in years. I haven't seen for quite a while, and I really appreciate it. So thanks for coming.